Yeah, so I know we've looked at the internet, and I'm pretty sure it was very simple to you. I mean, just brushing through the course curriculum. You should have taken the assessment, and I hope that wasn't too stressful. I mean, it's just to get you acquainted with how developers do our research. So I hope you've actually completed the assessment to the best of your ability. I'm going to be marking it and grading it and reviewing it myself. But for this, we'll be talking about data structures, and this is where the course starts to get pretty interesting. A little bit more technical, but I'll do my best to make it. It's actually not difficult. It's actually pretty simple stuff. But data structures are quite fundamental to the concept of softwares. Every software system or processes depend on data or is data itself, whether the user record, whether conditional checks, like if this is true, do this. Everything is kind of like affiliated with data in some ways. And this is understanding how data works, understanding data structures, puts you in a lot of ways in the mindset of the developers you'll be dealing with, right? Seeing how they really look at things. Also, when you're reviewing technical specs or the product requirement documents, you have a sense of why some things are done certain with conditional statements. So yeah, this module will be walking through some of the popular data structures. Now, data structures are generally divided into the basic and the advanced. I mean, this is not an hard-coded division. It's just a way to really think of things. So the basic data structures are more primitive, right? They appear everywhere and they serve as the building blocks for the advanced data structures. And the list I'm just going to tell you straightforward. In the other content, I'm going to really break it down. We'll talk about each of these data structure. This list is not exhaustive, but these are the ones I think is relevant for you to know right now. So in the other content, we'll talk about each of them. But for here, I'll just be listing it down to you. So some of the basic ones are the Boolean, which is true or false. I mean, if true, if false, true or false. Quite straightforward. You have the integers, which are numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But these are numbers that are kind of like without the decimals, without the point, without the complex number systems, just simple numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can't tell you how useful these are. Almost you'd work with developers will work with a lot of numbers, right? Almost for everything, both for calculations, for saying how many of this thing has happened. I mean, you can't really write a piece of software, like 4 lines of code without having to do with certain numbers here and there. So integers are useful for that. And we have the floating point numbers, and these are decimals. They become more relevant when you're dealing with complex mathematics or currencies, or even some basic mathematics. You have to use some decimals to calculate some things. We'll talk about that more in depth in the content. We have the strings, and strings are letter combination of word or sentences, just combination of characters, right? My name is Demilade, that's a string. My itself is a string, name itself is a string, is a string. Putting everything together also form a string. We'll also take a look at that and some of the methods that they are used in, some of the methods that get called in it. And finally, we have characters. Characters are individual characters. Characters are individual letters or elements that make up strings usually. Right? So M is a character, Y is a character. A smiley could be a combination of character. Right? These characters get converted onto that smiley image you see. So those are the basic data structures. There are some more advanced data structures that are a combination of these that are made up or extracted from these basics or these primitives. And there are a lot, but I'm just going to be talking about 3. One is array, the other is hash table and hash map, and the last one is a queue. So the array is just a list, right? Having multiple, kind of like a bag of apples. So you have a basket, or you have apple, orange. So that's an array, or let me say an array of cars. You have Ford, GM, Tesla, Toyota, an array. So combining multiple items in a data structure that can hold multiple different data types. You could hold multiple string, multiple integers, multiple booleans. We'll talk about it in depth in that content. And we have the hash table. Hash table is, or hash map is a representation of key and value. It's a pretty interesting one. We'll discuss it still in other content, but it's just a way to represent data in a key and value, like a dictionary. It has some advantage over the arrays, has some disadvantage. Data are easily read once you know the key. Would break things down together, as I've said so many times already. And last ones are queues, which simply just follow the pattern of a data structure that one thing comes in and comes out, first in, first out. Something comes in and comes out, something comes in and comes out. And queues are very useful, actually very useful as a product manager, because when you're designing some complex system, if you're working in fintech or designing some complex system with crons, you will need to be able to conceptualize what queues are, think about what queues are. So in other content, we are going to really take a deep dive into each of these content type. I'll try to make it as fun as possible. If you have any questions, please drop it in the discussion. We are going to have a live class. Attempt the quiz as best as possible, please. Very important, because it might look like, oh, why am I learning all these things? I'm not a developer. I don't be an engineer. But then they actually stack up and make you a better product manager overall. See you in the next content.